Hi, I'm Mal from the Money Study and bring you another episode in our Take 10 challenge. And we're up to number 11, day 11. This is all about term deposits. Before we kick off, there's the disclaimer, facts and figures, information, it is not advice. Term deposits, pretty popular in Australia, been around for a long time obviously, and most people got a bit of an idea how these things work. It's like in a savings account, and they provide you with a fixed interest. So you put in $10,000 and you lock it up for 3 months, 1 year, 5 years. And at the time you put your money into the term deposit, they tell you what your interest rate is going to be for that term, and it's locked in. So it doesn't matter what goes on with the interest rates. Once you've started your term deposit, that's the rate that you're going to get. And so generally speaking, with most banks, they'll provide it from 1 month in various different steps up to around about 5 years for most term deposits. And generally the interest rate that you get on a term deposit is better than what you get in a normal bank account, literally because your money is indeed locked up. Your money is then set for that time period. Therefore, the bank's got access to your money for a known period, and then they can use that money for other things to make the bank more money. And effectively, they don't have to worry about that money until the end of the period when you get your money back. Now, some of these term deposits, they will give you the interest rate per month. And so you can, if they say 5%, it'll be worked out at 5% over the year and then divided by 12 to give you that interest rate per month. Or some of them literally just pay out at the end of the period. So you get nothing during the year, or if it's locked up for longer, they literally just pay you your money back and all the interest that was applicable at the end of the period. So just make sure you understand the difference there, because it's can make a difference if you're relying on some sort of an income from it. To say that you can't get out of a term deposit is wrong. You can indeed, if you have a term deposit, and then normally you can say, yep, something's happened, I need that money out of the term deposit. They will usually just charge you a penalty fee for breaking that term deposit. Now, if it's a case of, you need the money urgently, you wouldn't really worry too much about that penalty fee. In regard that, generally speaking, the way the penalty fee is calculated, it's effectively looking at what you would have got had it not been in a term, like it had been in a normal bank account, and then the penalty readjusts it down to that sort of level. Probably an admin fee added to it as well. But under most circumstances, the penalty fee is not horrendous. But normally, yep, ideally, just if you've got a term deposit, hang in there until the maturity date to make sure you don't incur any sort of penalty fee. Now, at the bottom here, I've just done a snapshot of one of these comparative websites indicating, what they're offering from a particular company here. And the interesting part is that they're offering, 4.9 for a shorter period of time, 4.9 for a longer period of time. The intermediate time, there are 7 months, you actually get a longer rate. Now, normally with a term deposit, you would expect to get a higher rate for the longer that it's locked up for. So normally term deposits for 1 year, 2 years, 3, 4, 5 pay a higher interest rate than if you're locking it up for 2 or 3 months. But remembering, of course, it's all based on interest rates. And if the bank believes that over time interest rates are going to go down, well, then they're not going to pay you a higher rate for holding onto this money 2 or 3 years later on at a higher rate, when they could basically, pay a lower rate because interest rates are then therefore dropping. So obviously hindsight would be lovely if we knew exactly what interest rates are going to do here, to sort of, say, okay, well, I don't believe that the bank's got this right, and you can choose that term that sort of suits. Banks aren't stupid, but no one really knows what's going to happen here. There's a lot of conjecture as to whether these interest rates will indeed go down if the economy starts to get a bit sluggish, and generally that's what would happen. But yeah, look, it's an interesting scenario. It's going to be, I'm looking forward to seeing what indeed does happen with interest rates. So I say, just if you're ever comparing your term deposits, just make sure, yeah, is this, how is it paid? What is the term and what is the rate indeed for that term? Um, it's just say it's just this whole business of understanding, what is indeed going to go on here. Um, I, at the end of the term, normally what they will do then is, if you don't want the money, you can set up like an automatic rollover. But of course, it generally speaking won't be at the same rate. It'll be at whatever new rates they're offering. So it could be a case that you've got a 4% term deposit at the end of the year. It might be then offering you a 5%, but it might only be offering you a 3%, depending on which way the interest rates are actually going there. And some of the terms will offer you a bit of a bonus rate if you sort of, if you do click the button that says you want an automatic one, because that sort of indicates to the bank that you're going to be locking this money up for a longer time. And of course, these rates will generally vary too, depending on how much money you're going to put in there. They might offer a rate for up to 10,000. They might offer you a rate if it's over 50,000 or over 100,000, and so it goes on there. So these rates can be dependent upon the actual amount of money that you are indeed going to give them. So some of the factors we need to consider if we're going to compare term deposits are obviously the interest rate. That's obviously number one, and for the different terms. And of course, it could be a case that you might want to hedge your bets, and you say, okay, well, I'll put 50,000 into a 6 month term deposit because it looks like they're going to give me a higher rate there. But I do want to sort of protect this money over a longer term. I might put another 50,000 into a 2-year one, and so it goes on. You might have a 3 month, the 6 months, the 12 month, the 2-year, and a 5-year. So they all sort of mature at different times, and you can then work out, when are they all going to expire, and as one rolls over into a new rate, depending on what interest rates are doing, you might increase more into the longer term ones than the shorter term ones, and so it goes on. What's an ideal term? Look, it really comes down to you. What are we trying to do with this money? When are you going to need it? What's it for? And so forth. Most of them are pretty easy these days. You can do them online, which is usually the way that most people will get into a term deposit. They'll just go online and set one up. Some of them do have a minimum investment amount. You may not be able to do $5,000 into a term deposit in some cases. But again, go do a bit of searching. You can usually find a term deposit for the amount of money that you want to put in there. Are there any setup costs? Sort of some sort of account fee or a setup cost? You certainly want to compare that. You wouldn't want to be say, "Oh, you beauty, I can get another 0.2% with this bank," but then find out the fee that they're charging sort of wipes that benefit out. So have a close look at the fees as well. And can you indeed make early withdrawals if something does happen? Some of them say no, so there is no penalty because you just can't do it. That's rare. Generally speaking, you can, but it's a case of finding out first if you really are thinking down the path, I'm going to need to take this money out. Well, get a shorter period in the first place to avoid any sort of penalties. But it's always a case. It's just to cover yourself in case something might come out of the blue. What's the notice period you've got to get to break it, and what will the penalty actually be there? And of course, what happens at the end of it? Does it just automatically go back to a nominated bank account? Will it automatically roll over? Do you get some sort of a warning, to remind you that it's coming up and so forth? All of those things just make it life a little bit simpler, from going forward. Be wary that when you go searching for term deposits, and I just did this just recently, just to see what happens. I went searching for term deposit rates, and you come up with all these comparative websites, which I'll talk about in a sec. But effectively, what it boils down to is that in amongst them all, you get ads like this one that says, is your money earning, less than 8.18%? How about you put it with us? Invest 20,000, it's flexible. You've got 3 to 36 month terms. So it sort of sounds like a term deposit. There's monthly income payouts and been around for 21 years, Australian lead, but it's a mortgage fund. Now, what a mortgage fund is, it's not a term deposit. It's literally you are being like a bank. You are giving your money to these people who then turn around and lend it out like a bank. And so you're effectively pooling all your money with other people, other investors, and that's being used for mortgages, for home buyers and so forth. So generally speaking, relatively safe, because it's a pooled account. It's not like you've just gone into not lending the money to one person. But I then sort of copied and pasted the little fine print that I found further on down the page, which said, this investment is not a bank deposit, and there are risks of lending for commercial purposes explained in their product disclosure statement, which you can download. They don't spell it out, but that outline that the return is not guaranteed and you risk losing part or all of your money. So that's a little bit different than a term deposit being sort of in a bank situation there. And of course, mortgage funds had a bit of a problem back in 2008 when we had the GFC, because money got tight and people were sort of wanting to pull their money out. You can imagine if everybody wanted their money out of a mortgage fund, then what's happening with the mortgages? They might have a 20, 30-year mortgage, but everyone wants their money back. Can't be done. So they actually froze the account. And I had people who had $500,000 in a mortgage account trying to use it for their, retirement, but then the account got locked up and they couldn't access it. And some of these mortgage accounts took years before you could actually get your money back again there. So be careful. But there's oodles of different comparative website. CanStar is probably one of the bigger ones there. So you can just go, if you just go searching, you'll come up with on the first page of looking for term deposits. You'll get different rates and so forth. But just be careful, I say, the fine print. Always with any investment, make sure you know exactly what you're getting into. Is it what you really believe it is? And if you don't understand anything, we're here more than happy to have a chat about it.